I bought a peaceful lake property to escape stress, but the local HOA had other plans. Their president, Karen, stormed onto my land claiming I was illegally camping. Things escalated fast, so fast that she called 911 on me. And the aftermath, it shocked the entire neighborhood. I bought my lake property for one simple reason: peace. After years of noise, stress, and deadlines, I needed a place where I could hear myself think again. The moment I saw that calm lake water reflecting the sky, I knew this was it. My escape. My reset button. A place where nothing existed except trees, birds, and silence. Another big reason I bought the land was because it was outside the local HOA's reach. Everyone in town warned me about them, especially their president. People whispered her name like she was some kind of mythological creature who enforced bylaws with the same intensity others reserve for life or death situations. They just called her Karen. But since my land wasn't under their jurisdiction, I figured her world and mine would never cross. I was wrong. My plan was simple: spend a weekend camping at my lake property. Sleep under the stars, listen to the water, disconnect from everything. But the moment I set up my tent, I unknowingly triggered a series of events that would spiral wildly out of control. Because that peaceful trip I imagined? Yeah, Karen had other plans. The sun was just starting to dip when I finished pitching my tent. I was feeling good, relaxed even. I had a small fire going, my cooler unpacked, and that calm lake breeze sweeping through the trees. Everything felt perfect. Then I heard footsteps. Not soft, casual footsteps, purposeful ones, angry ones. I turned around and saw her. Karen. Short blonde haircut, sunglasses so big they covered half her face, arms stiffly crossed like she'd been training for this confrontation her entire life. "Excuse me," she snapped. "You can't camp here." I blinked. This is my land." She shook her head dramatically. "No, this area is under the Lakeside HOA, and camping violates bylaw 14B. You need to pack up immediately or face fines." I almost laughed. Almost. "I'm not part of your HOA," I said calmly. "My property isn't included in your development. It's private." She stared at me like I'd spoken an alien language. "That's impossible. All land near this lake is HOA governed." I showed her the property boundary map on my phone. She didn't even glance at it. "That's probably forged," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "We'll deal with this." Then she spun around, marching away like she was going to war. I thought that was the end of it. I couldn't have been more wrong. The next morning, I woke up feeling refreshed. Birds were chirping, the lake was still, and I honestly believed Karen had just been blowing off steam. Then came round 2. I heard voices, multiple ones. I stepped out of my tent and found Karen and 2 men wearing HOA badges like they were police officers. "There he is," Karen barked, "the illegal camper." One of the men stepped forward like he was about to deliver bad news. "Sir, you are in violation of HOA regulations. Pack up your belongings immediately or we will issue fines." I sighed. "Look, again, this is my property. I'm not under your HOA." I handed them my printed deed and land survey. The first man looked it over. The second man leaned in. "Karen?" She refused to even glance at it. "That means nothing," she snapped. "Anyone can print documents. This land is HOA land." "It is not," I repeated. "Please read the boundary line. It's clearly outside your neighborhood's jurisdiction." The 2 board members exchanged uncomfortable looks. They knew I was right. Karen stepped between us aggressively. "No, we're not done here. You are breaking rules and I will handle this." The men looked embarrassed as they followed her away. And just as they left, I heard Karen mutter loudly enough for me to hear, "Next time, he won't be so lucky." I didn't know what she meant, but I'd find out soon enough. The next 48 hours were a circus. Every few hours, Karen appeared again, sometimes alone, sometimes with HOA members behind her, sometimes with a clipboard like she was documenting a crime scene. She'd take pictures of my tent, pictures of my car, pictures of my fire pit. At one point, she even brought a measuring tape and started measuring the distance from my tent to the lake, like she was preparing an official report to the FBI. Then came the fake violation notices. Yes, she taped HOA violation warnings to trees on my own property. Each one was more ridiculous than the last. Unauthorized camping, unauthorized fire, unauthorized presence, unauthorized breathing. Okay, the last one didn't happen, but it felt like it could. Whenever I tried to speak to her, she'd either ignore me or yell something like, "We have rules for a reason." It got laughable, but annoying. I tried to enjoy my time, but every time I started to relax, there she was again, snap, 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 taking photos like she was documenting an exotic wildlife species invading her territory. I decided I'd stick it out. It was my land. I wasn't going to let an HOA dictator bully me off it. But then came the night when everything escalated from annoying to dangerous. It was late, around 10 p.m. The fire was low, the stars were out, and everything was peaceful until I heard screaming. Karen's screaming. She was running toward me with her phone out, yelling, "That's it! I'm calling the police! You're done!" And then she hit 911. My calm weekend, it was over. I quickly stood up as Karen began screaming into her phone, pacing back and forth like she'd discovered a criminal mastermind at work. "Yes, hello, I need officers immediately," she yelled. "There's a man trespassing, yes, armed and dangerous, on HOA property." I stared at her in disbelief. Armed? Dangerous? What was I doing? Roasting marshmallows too aggressively? I wasn't armed. I wasn't dangerous. I wasn't even loud. I was literally sitting by a dying campfire, eating trail mix. But Karen kept going. "He's refusing to leave. He's threatening me." I hadn't said a single word. She was performing. Full drama, Oscar-worthy. Within minutes, red and blue lights flashed through the trees. 2 police cars pulled up near my property line, and the officers stepped out with caution, hands near their holsters, scanning the area. My heart dropped. This wasn't a joke anymore. I stepped forward slowly, hands visible. "Officers, I can explain." Karen ran in front of me. "There he is. Arrest him. He's violating HOA safety bylaws and threatening the community." One officer turned to her sharply. "Ma'am, please step back." The other approached me. "Sir, are you armed?" "No, I'm just camping." They checked quickly. Nothing. No weapons. I handed them my deed and ID. While they looked things over, Karen kept ranting. "He forged those. He's lying. This land is HOA land." One officer finally asked the obvious question. "Ma'am, do you even know where your HOA boundaries end?" Karen froze. "That's irrelevant." It wasn't. The officers pulled up the digital county map. They compared it to my deed. And right there, under the glow of their flashlights, the truth became undeniable. I was on my own property, legally, completely, without question. The officers turned to her. "Ma'am, he's not under your HOA." At all. Karen's jaw dropped. But she wasn't done causing chaos.
Karen immediately tried to recover. "That map must be outdated. He's manipulating the lines. This is a safety issue." One officer held up his hand. "Ma'am, stop. You called 911 claiming he was armed. That's a serious misuse of emergency services." Karen sputtered. I thought he was dangerous." The officer raised an eyebrow. "He was sitting by a fire, alone, with camping gear." She tried one last tactic. "He's still in violation of HOA rules." "This is not HOA land," the officer repeated firmly. "You have no authority here." Karen looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. The officers walked her several steps away and spoke to her privately. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught a few key phrases. Underscore, false report, underscore, could be charged, underscore, final warning, underscore. Eventually, they escorted her back toward the HOA neighborhood. Before leaving, one of the officers came back to me inside. "She does this a lot," he said quietly. "Sorry you had to deal with it." Then they left. For the first time all weekend, the property was finally quiet. But the battle wasn't over. The next morning, I found an envelope taped to a tree. Yup, another HOA letter. This one was printed formally, threatening legal action, fines, and property seizure if I didn't remove all camping structures within 24 hours. I laughed out loud. Then I made a phone call to my attorney. I explained everything, the fake notices, the harassment, the 911 call. He told me he'd handle it. Within 48 hours, a certified legal response was delivered straight to the HOA board. It was intense. It spelled out state property laws, boundary rights, harassment statutes, illegal intimidation, and misuse of emergency services. The letter demanded the HOA cease all contact with me permanently or face legal consequences. From what I heard later, the board had a meltdown in their next meeting. The members who had seen my deed admitted they knew I was right. They didn't want to be sued. They didn't want police reports involved. They didn't want liability. And Karen? The board removed her as HOA president. She wasn't happy, obviously, but after the police warning, the board vote, and the legal threat, she finally backed off. Some neighbors quietly thanked me later. Apparently, I wasn't her first victim. After everything settled, I finally got the peaceful weekend I'd wanted from the start. The lake was quiet again, the trees were calm, and for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe without someone watching me through binoculars. Owning land is supposed to give you freedom, space to exist without being controlled by someone else's obsession with rules. And dealing with Karen reminded me that some people don't just want authority, they want control. But here's the thing. Standing your ground matters. Knowing your rights matters. And refusing to be bullied matters. Now when I go to my lake property, it's truly peaceful. No more HOA spies, no more fake violations, no more boundary battles. Just nature, silence, and the satisfaction of knowing I stood up to a power-hungry HOA president and came out on top. And trust me, I've got plenty more stories from this lake property.
But that's for another video.